Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America on a Sunday morning. That means the duo, Mike Callahan in. And our first Sunday morning, all first this week, our first Sunday morning.
I'm betting lead off here.
Meet.
Betting a little lead off here. Sully's on next week. So.
Yeah, we were up at Woodbine last week, and only 3 weekends ago we were at Saratoga, so things have turned around. But happy to be in here. I had to work the rust off a little bit the last couple of days, but I think I'm ready to roll.
No, you're great. I watched the show yesterday, so no rust there. See if I have a little rust, but I'll be able to shake it off.
It was Thursday, my first afternoon in here. I got right to the end of the show, and I said, thanks for tuning in to Racing Across America. I meant, no, OTB Live. I went all day.
It's funny, because we call each other different. We all rotate, so it's like, you're Sully one day, I'm Seth, and everybody just kind of rotates. Between the stage preview that we do, Racing Across America, OTB Live, sometimes you just mix it up. That happens.
But we'll keep it together for this Sunday morning. Great stakes action yesterday, both at Parx and Laurel. We're going to hit on all of that. As mentioned last week, we were up at Woodbine. I want to thank our friends at Woodbine for their sponsorship. Woodbine, pick, bet, and cheer on great racing north of the border. We saw that last week up there with the Woodbine Mile. But as I say, nice stakes action at a few venues yesterday, and we'll hit on all of it. And part of that is going to include Laurel, which moved their big card from last week because of anticipated weather to this weekend. And yesterday, boy, it was a solid stakes card. We're going to talk about all of it with who else? Our friend Frank Vespi from the Racing Biz. They do great coverage of racing in the Mid-Atlantic region. Frank, good morning.
Morning, guys.
Good morning, Frank.
And it was great to talk to you live, sitting right across from me up in Saratoga a few weeks ago. I didn't talk to you after your visit up there. How did your meet go? How did your live visit to Saratoga go? And I will set you up by saying, I don't think I've talked to anybody. Being horse players, you almost automatically run into at least a few people who are like, I had a great meet. Well, this year at Saratoga, I don't think anybody said that. I don't think I ran into anybody who said they had a great meet.
Tough.
So don't feel bad if it wasn't a super weekend up there. But how was your live visit to Saratoga?
No, it was a lot of fun. It was great to get the chance to sit down with you in person once again, and my wife was there, and we actually spent a morning at the Saratoga battlefield, which was kind of fun.
Yeah.
Something neither of us had done, and caught up with a lot of old friends, which is always enjoyable, and actually did post a profit for the weekend, so that was nice.
Oh, there you go.
Midnight Bisou losing in the Alabama was good news for me.
There you go.
So yeah, it was a perfect visit.
We like to hear that. All right, let's go to Laurel yesterday. And before we talk to races specifically, I had Dave Rodman on with me yesterday to kind of preview things. And part of the discussion was the weather because they were off the turf on Friday. But as I talked to Dave, he said it was sunny, said they expected maybe some precipitation late in the day, but didn't look to that to affect the races at all. But what was the atmosphere like and the weather like yesterday?
Yeah, it was. We had kind of pelting down rain early in the morning, and it rains every day here. It's like living in a rainforest right now, and so if you watch the races, the turf was getting pretty chopped up. Times were very, very slow. The track, I think they had listed it as good at the beginning of the day, but they actually subsequently they downgraded it retroactive to the beginning of the card to yielding. And so all that, sort of affected the racing. But actually during the day, we caught an unbelievable break. It was nice all day. And so it was really ended up being a nice day for the De Francis. It's raining again today, so they're going to be off the turf again today. But they caught the one day they could be on the turf on Saturday, so that worked out perfectly. And it was a nice crowd. It's always a nice day. The De Francis family comes out for it, so that's always a nice thing. And this is a race, the De Francis, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but it's a race. It used to be a Grade 1. It's not a Grade 1 anymore. It's Grade 3. It's I think nationally it doesn't really cut that profile anymore. But locally, this is still a big deal. This still feels like a big race to folks in Maryland. So this has kind of a big day feel that maybe another day that has similar races doesn't quite have.
Yeah, that's what we like to hear, and it really was a nice stakes day yesterday all throughout the card. And let's talk about it, because part of it was the 2-year-olds, the 2-year-old fillies in the Salima, the 2-year-old boys in the Futurity. And we'll start out there. I said to Dave yesterday, Rodman, it's not your father's Futurity, which used to be the 2 turns on the dirt. Now it's 6 furlongs on the grass. But I said it to Dave. I really like the 3-year-old turf division every year. It's a subdivision that's always a lot of fun, and these are horses that'll play into that next year, you would assume. When I talked to Dave yesterday about the Futurity, I said I liked Veterans Beach, the Dave Donk horse, who didn't jump off the page necessarily Beyer-wise in the career debut, but I thought it was a nice win up at Saratoga, and as they got late in the stretch, I thought I was in pretty good position. Veterans Beach is going to be the number 5 horse as we watch. Rodman likes Scrap Copper, the number 3 horse. That one is also going to be in the mix. But I kicked myself after the race was over, as we'll see a late run from number 14, Order and Law, because I love the Violence horses as win early types. And this was a horse by Violence that was still a maiden coming into the race, but with 2 nice improving efforts. And at the price, you kind of had to throw that one in the mix at the 9-1. And I kicked myself because I ignored my own breeding info and didn't use the Violence runner. And there was another one a little later in the day, I think at Woodbine, kind of a similar scenario, that had not won in a couple of starts and won in the 3rd start at a price. But boy, this was a nice win from that outside post position, Order and Law in the Futurity.
Yeah, it absolutely was, and I got to give a shout-out to our guy Gary Quill, who handicaps Laurel for us on the RacingBiz.com. This was his top selection in this race. Order and Law pays 21.80 to win. This is how close this race was and how late this horse was along. The photographers who were shooting the race on the outside rail, which is sort of the standard view of a photo finish that you get, missed this horse altogether. He came on so late. They were all focused on Scrap Copper, who looked like he was going to win, or Veterans Beach. These horses looked like they were clearly going to win, and then all of a sudden, Order and Law flashed through at the last minute, and it was a huge run. It's the first time on the turf for that horse. For Lou Linder, and Fergal Lynch was up. It turned out to be the start of a big day for Fergal. He won 3 stakes on the day, including this one, and Lou Linder thinks the horse is going to stretch out, and certainly he ran like he's going to stretch out. I mean, I think it's a little. I wish they'd go back to at least a mile and 16th with this race, so it told us a little more about how these horses might be going forward. Turf sprinting 2-year-olds, it's a little bit of a grab bag of what you're getting, and obviously the result here is a little hard to know what to do with, because it was over yielding ground, and some horses are going to like it and some horses weren't. And this was a track that totally played to closing sprinters. It absolutely was he wanted to be in the back. So he kind of was running from the right spot, but absolutely huge effort out in the middle of the track for this horse.
Yeah, as I say, it'll be fun to watch these horses as they progress and see if some of them, do turn into those nice 3-year-old turfers that I like to watch. But as you indicate, it probably would be a little more indicative if this was a mile or a mile and a 16th on the grass. And at this time of year, but I'm assuming they're thinking, you know what, we'll get a nice field if we offer up this kind of money for the turf sprinters, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, and certainly they do. It's hard to argue with success, even though I like doing it. Yeah. But they did get a nice field for this. They get a decent field for the Salima. And it makes some sense. I mean, I think a lot of trainers right now are thinking, my horse could go 3/4. I'm not sure we're ready for a mile. So it makes some sense. I just, I wasn't around for the Secretariats and the Affirms, those kind of horses running in the Laurel Futurity, but I was around for Barbaro winning the Laurel Futurity, and that was pretty cool to see that horse go on and do the things he did afterwards, and you're not really seeing that progression from horses winning this race right now.
Yeah, and Frank, Mike here. I just had a question, because actually when I was listening to you, you actually brought up a good point. With all the rain that you've gotten down at Laurel, and again, people kind of projecting forward and looking at today's card, what are the kind of biases, tendencies you've seen so far down at Laurel, especially since yesterday you said sprinting-wise on the turf, you saw a lot of bias towards the closers kind of being able to close into it?
Yeah, I mean, it's it's been a little tough. I mean, what we've had a lot of, the last couple of weekends has been off the turf, but the dirt course has been fast, and it has been rocket fast. I mean, we've had two races in the last couple of weekends where going a flat mile, which is one turn race at Laurel, where the finish time was within 2/5 of the track record. So it's been very fast. I think you like to be not too far out of it. And you don't love to be on the rail. The rail hasn't been deadly, but you'd be a couple of passes out. But overall, I mean, I'd say the dirt course has held up pretty well. It's been pretty fair. Not a huge bias, and like I say, we're off the turf all the time, and off the turf again today.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to do
That's
with
tough,
that.
yeah.
So.
Speaking of turf, let's get back to the stakes action. The all along yesterday, Fillies and Mares, 3-year-olds and up, going a mile and a 16th on the grass. This race was frustrating for me. I was in yesterday doing the handicapping show during the afternoon, and I talked about this race, and I said I liked Mythical Mission. 10-1 on the morning line for Graham Motion, coming out of a win in a stake down at Mountaineer, and went off at 7-1. Mythical Mission's going to be the number 4 horse. But I thought just sat back too far early, and the rest of the field just let Valedictorian float on the front end. And we're seeing, as we're watching the stretch run, just too much to overcome for the field as they let them kind of spurt away at the top of the stretch. So it's one of those frustrating turf races where they just let one of them walk on the front end, top of the stretch. That one spurts away. And Mythical Mission made a nice late run, the number 4 horse there, to get up for second. Shug's number 10, My Impression, third, with Gary Stevens on board. But at 7-1, I was kind of disappointed. I made a nice run, but it was too late as Valedictorian took them all the way around in the all along.
Yeah, this was quietly a good day for J.D. Acosta, who rode this horse. He did a nice job here. This horse actually, on this course, going 48 flat, 12 and 4 for 3/4 is actually a fairly solid pace. And this horse kind of drew away to a big lead before Mythical Mission kind of chopped into it late, but not, never really a major threat to catch up. But J.D. Acosta won this race 12-1 with this horse. A couple of races later in the Turf Cup, he runs second on Cutado. Cutado was 115-1. So not a bad day for J.D. Acosta. This race, this was kind of a cool moment. When you watch races, you watch races on TV and big races, and you see these rich guys who own 300 horses, and they want to walk the horse in after it wins a race, and you kind of look at that, you say, well, let the people work with the horse, walk the horse in. But in this particular case, it was pretty neat because the owner is Heather Sawyer, Epic Racing, and she was so excited for this horse to win. This is this horse's second stake win. It's her second stake win as an owner, and she was just over the moon. And I went up to talk with her after the race, and she saw that I had a recorder out. And she said, "Oh, I'm so excited! I love this horse. He tries so hard, and this horse has been so great. It makes me happy. My quality of life." On and on, like a wall of sound for like 3 or 4 minutes. And I finally said, "What's your name?" But that's what you like. You like to see people that excited about what's happening. This is a horse they claimed for, I think, $25,000. Has now won a couple of stakes for them, and she said that Valedictorian didn't change leads properly really up until this year. This is a Kelly Breen trainee, and she said Kelly was working with him, and then finally called her one day and said she's changing leads properly now, and so they're pretty excited about this horse. I don't know that, I don't know that particularly big things are in her future, but certainly she's a horse that can knock around these kind of stakes and compete.
Yeah, she kicked over 300,000 in earnings, and that was the 9th win in the career. So as you say, you look at the record. And I don't know whether we're looking at a Grade 1 winner down the line, but certainly this is the kind of horse everybody would love to have in the barn. And I'm with you. I've always thought about that. If I'm a horse owner, I don't even want to walk the horse in because it always seems like, well, I won't say always. It often seems like they're kind of instructing them how to hold the horse. Go over here and do this. And I don't want to be that guy who's like, well, teach me how to walk them in and so I can get my picture. I just want to stand there next to him and get the picture taken and then cash the check. I'm with you, though. Let the people who know how to do it and deal with the horse every day walk them in and get their picture taken on days like that.
Yeah, get the little moment of glory. But it was cool to see somebody
absolutely
so excited by her horse. It's always fun, and those, for me as a guy who covers the races, those always make the best interviews. The trainers, the jockeys, I know exactly what they're going to say pretty much all the time, but the owners are the ones who really are all revved up. So that was pretty fun.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on to the Laurel Dash. 3-year-olds and up, going 6 on the grass. And again, another one of those swooping moves. We're going to watch the stretch run. It's going to be Class and Cash coming from way in the back of the pack to get up to win by a chart margin of half a length. Dubini, a horse I thought was a player in here, runs second. I had Class and Cash down in the 3rd spot. The horse I put on top, number 7, Tombalane, just went off as the favorite, never really offered much. Got up into kind of the mix, but then faded late to be 5th. But boy, as I say, another swooping move. Class and Cash gets it done for, as you say, Fergal Lynch. Good day.
Yeah, it was absolutely a good day for Fergal, and it was funny. He ended up winning 3, and I talked to him after the 3rd and said, how does it feel to win 3 on a day like this? And he completely deadpan. He said, well, we got 4 last year on this day. So a nice day for him. But one thing I do want to say, Dubini ran an absolutely monster race in this spot. The track was very, very slow and boggy, and nobody in the turf sprints, nobody was close to the lead and stayed on to the end except Dubini, and he gets beat a half length. And I really feel for this horse because he keeps running good races and keeps not winning. And I don't know if that's a sort of a character flaw of his, that he finds a way to get beat, or he just keeps running in horses that are a little bit better or whatever. But he keeps running good races and not winning. But Class and Cash, this is a nice ride from Fergal. He kind of has to come out between, then he dips down to the rail and comes flying along and gets up by a half length and for Jane Sibeli. This race was also the first of the 3 match series races that were on the card, and that worked out kind of neat as well because you had 3 horses in those races, Oak Bluffs in this race, Lacaille and Louisfield in the De Francis. If any one of them had won, they would have been the overall match series champion. So that's kind of neat. Oak Bluffs ends up winning the turf sprint division in the match series. I can't remember how many points he had, but Class and Cash, that was definitely a nice run. This is a horse that was kind of unlucky. I think was second in this race last year and galloped out ahead of everybody. Was kind of unlucky last year, so comes back to get the money this year. Always satisfying to kind of make amends for a prior defeat.
And the kicker with this horse, as I said, made the nice move from the back of the pack. But the kicker was, as I watched this race yesterday afternoon, I thought, oh, he's done, because this is kind of a need for the lead type, and he was way back early. So given that scenario, this was a very big performance because he went completely against his normal running style.
Yeah, it's actually, you're right, and I kind of looked at the same thing, but then going back and after talking to Fergal, if you look, he's running a mile and 16th, and he's always on the lead doing that, but looking back at when he ran the Laurel Dash last year, he actually was running from 4th.
Yeah.
And I actually think he might just be best doing this, not coming from the clouds quite the way this turned out, but being a little bit of a closing sprinter might actually work out better for him than being in need the lead miler.
Yeah, that is interesting. I mean, the only other real turf sprint is that Dash last year, and he sat back and made a run in that race too. The longer races, he goes to the lead. That is kind of interesting. The 2-turn races, he tends to be out in front. The short ones, he comes from out of the clouds. It'd be interesting to see what they do with him going forward, because it seems like they can go either way really with this horse. All right, Laurel Turf Cup. We alluded to it a few minutes ago, but we'll take a look at that one now, the Laurel Turf Cup. This one, I put Hello Don Julio on top. We talked about it yesterday with Dave Rodman. I just thought the string of triple-digit buyer numbers for this one kind of stood out in the field. The horse I thought was interesting was Scuba. Scuba's going to wind up running fifth at 32-1, but mostly a dirt horse. I wondered if they were hoping it would move off the turf, but they kept Scuba in, as they say, wound up fifth. But Hello Don Julio with that string of triple digits coming off a close-up second place finish last time up in Saratoga, winds up winning. As you say, Cuptado at 115-1, the number 3 horse runs second. Postulation, the number 5 at 12-1, runs third. But Hello Don Julio gets it done in the Laurel Turf Cup.
Yeah, this was this horse was the favorite, one of the few turf favorites to actually win on the day here at Laurel, and this horse kind of went right to the lead. He had company for a mile and change from Final Copy, who was 7-2, but they were going very slowly the whole time. It was just the two of them, and they went 25 for the quarter, 51, 116 and change for three quarters. They weren't going fast there. And I think the fastest quarter of the race was the final quarter, which is, that's what real racehorses do. And this was a good effort from Hello Don Julio. Good ride for Channing Hill. Just get the horse to the front, get him to relax, cut him loose, and watch him win. And as we talked about, just a giant effort from Cuptado. Really kind of no idea where that came from, but it was really a good effort. And you kind of think if he could have switched leads at some point, he might have even been a little closer, even been able to get up. But Hello Don Julio was clearly the horse in this race.
Should mention Cuptado trained by Tom Morley, so a New York runner, but has been training down in Laurel. He's had a string down there, it seems like, throughout most of the season. And coming out of a couple of graded stakes tries, was in the Louisville Grade 3 2-back Belmont Gold Cup, a Grade 2 last time. So maybe class-wise this was just a better spot. But he turned a $3 horse into a $260 exacta. Not a $3, $5 horse, the $5 winner into a $260 exacta. So if you like Cuptado, you got paid.
Yeah, he sure did, and I did not.
Yeah, no, I did not either, unfortunately. All right, let's move on. Sensible Lady, Turf Dash, 6 furlongs for the fillies and mares. And this one is interesting to me because, again, a New York-based runner and a guy I always root for, our friend Pat Kelly. Pat's a great guy, and so to see him go down to Laurel with Fire Key and win, always a lot of fun. So Fire Key is going to be the number 4 horse here in a ding-dong finish at 11-1, wins by a chart margin of a nose. Compelled runs second with Gary Stevens on board by a head, and Fear No Evil, the number 9 horse, runs third in here. The even money favorite, Smiling Causeway, a disappointing 8th in the field of 10. But as I say, the number 4, Fire Key, easy to root for as a Pat Kelly trainee.
Yeah, absolutely. And this was another race that, we were talking about the closers having the edge on these sprints, and the horses that were first, second, and third after a quarter mile ended up last, second to last, and third to last, including, as you pointed out, the favorite Smiling Causeway. This was a terrific horse race, a 3-way, 3 heads bobbing on the wire there with Fire Key getting up by a nose after rallying outside, and it was kind of neat. We were talking about Heather Sawyer and how excited she was with her horse after winning one of the earlier races. Pat Kelly was a little bit more like relieved, I think was the word I want. I think he said something like, after the race, he said something like, well, finally something went according to plan, because this is a horse that, they had taken to Saratoga, and they had a race that was off the turf and a race that was on really soggy turf, and then they had one where a horse broke down in front of them, and it was just things that kept happening to this horse, but this race, he finally, was able to get a little bit of a clear run and get up, and it was fun for Pat. He grew up, I think he said up till about 5th grade in Maryland, so it's kind of a homecoming for him. Nice to come back and get the money in a stakes race, and really, as I said, seemed pretty relieved to get Fire Key back, kind of back on track and not have anything go terribly wrong for him.
Yeah, had run second in this race last year, and really that was part of a string of first or seconds that this horse was firing. It's just the last three, as you alluded to, up at Saratoga, where things really didn't go their way. So nice to see that one get back on track. All right, a couple of more highlights for the afternoon. The Grade 3 DeFrancis, $250,000 up for grabs, 6 furlongs. And again, I talked to Dave Rodman yesterday, and I liked Switzerland. I thought the race 2 back down at Pimlico, the Maryland Sprint, on a sloppy track, albeit, but that was a pretty nice performance. And one of a couple of triple-digit buyers that he strung together, including going 3 back to the Oaklawn race. Disappointed in the Vanderbilt at Saratoga, but I had a feeling this horse might rebound, and sure enough, number 1 Switzerland does get it done. Again, Fergal Lynch, another one of his wins on the day, goes off the 9-5 favorite. Lackey runs second, and Sweet on the Ladies runs third in here. But a pretty nice performance for the Asmussen horse in the DeFrancis.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I got to be honest. I didn't like this horse in this spot because I kind of felt like, as you said, the horse ran a huge race at Pimlico when he won the Maryland Sprint, but then didn't really fire at Saratoga. That was his only start in 4 months, and Ricardo Santana decided to stay at Churchill, and on and on and on. I felt like this was a vulnerable favorite, and I was completely wrong. He ran really well here. He's a horse that has some issues. He doesn't always break all that alertly, but he did break fine here, and which was really important because he was breaking from the 1 hole, and he was able to hold that position and just kind of get in the stride and come up inside into the lead, and kind of once he made the lead, it was kind of all over after that. He kind of spurted clear. He had a little bit of trouble switching leads. Probably didn't get lead switched till about the 16th, but then straightened away, and then was it was never really challenged after that. And pretty nice effort. And Fergal Lynch, who rode this horse as well, we keep talking about him, actually said he feels like a turf horse to him. He's got that kind of really natural sort of daisy cutter action, and said he feels like a turf horse, but I don't know that we'll see him doing that anytime soon because he's plenty good on dirt, and this was a pretty nice effort for this horse. I thought Lakai, who came in second, ran just a gigantic race here at 11-1. That was a really nice effort for that horse. He's the horse who wins the Match Series 3 and up dirt sprint division. And had he won this race, he would have won the overall championship as well, which went to Jessica Krupnik. But he ran, I thought, a really good race. I thought he might be compromised a little bit going 3/4, but he ran great. Sweet on the Ladies with Gary Stevens up was kind of antsy in the gate prior to the race and a little unsettled, and did rally late, but wasn't certainly was never ever getting to Switzerland, but ran a pretty good race there. I thought Lewisfield was a little bit of a disappointment, finishing 5th at 3-1, but the story here was really Switzerland. That was a dominant performance.
Yeah, this is a horse that in the Chad Brown barn earlier in the career had a lot of buzz. They paid $500,000 for the horses, a 2-year-old. But now moving into the Asmussen barn has kind of come into his own, except for that little bit of a dud in the Vanderbilt. We'll see where they go next, but you would think, bigger and better things may be on the horizon for Switzerland, at least attempting bigger and better things. All right, let's wind things up. The 2-year-old fillies on the grass in the Salima, and I'm happy to say when I talked to Dave Rodman yesterday, I mentioned Monkey's Uncle as a possible horse at a price that I thought was a little bit interesting. I also thought Shooby Dooby Doo could be a little bit of a player in here, and Dave Rodman himself tossed in Helen as a potential long shot, and I said to Dave, maybe we got to box these up for exactas, and hey, if you did, you wound up with $157 and change for a buck. It is number 10, Monkey's Uncle, getting it done. Second-time starter by Uncle Mo, coming off a career debut over at Delaware for Arnaud Delacour. Daniel Santino on board. Shooby Dooby Doo, Fergal Lynch runs second, 8-1 over 16-1, and Helen at 8-1 runs third in there. But again, second start, second win for the Uncle Mo runner, Monkey's Uncle.
Yeah, so here's a handicapping tip. If you see Arnaud Delacour, a horse that he trains, going off at 8-1, just put your money on it. I mean, the guy is an absolute win machine, and his horses are always well prepared. They're always spotted in spots where they can contend, and here's another one. I mean, it's an $18 winner. I hope you guys played that exacta if you were talking it up, or the even better, the triple, which paid 600 odd. So that's a pretty nice one. But yeah, this horse. One of the interesting things I think here, you know, and we saw this with the Pat Kelly horse and the Laurel Dash as well. You know, most horses that are running in a 6 furlong turf sprint are stretching a little bit from 5.5. This horse and the Pat Kelly horse were both horses that were cutting back from a mile. And I think on that sort of boggy turf course, that probably gave them a little bit of an edge, a little bit of a fitness edge that was probably pretty useful to them when the running got serious. But yeah, this was a nice effort. Horse wins by, you know, kind of a measured half length, I guess, and Daniel Centino for Delacour. It's Lael Stables again. It's an Uncle Mo. They paid a bunch of money. This is a horse that's supposed to be a good horse. Clearly, it's a horse that they think will stretch out since he broke his maiden going a mile. But you know, it's an Arnaud Delacour horse. You got to keep your eyes on it because it could pop up in some interesting places.
Yeah, I think many of the horses on the stakes card yesterday at Laurel will be interesting this fall going forward. And so I got to congratulate everybody down at Laurel for putting together a nice card. And talking with Dave yesterday, the original game plan for today was those Virginia breds. The original game plan for yesterday was those Virginia bred stakes races. They've been moved to this afternoon, correct?
They have been, and they're all turf races, and they're all going to be off the turf, and the Virginia guys are going to be beside themselves, unfortunately. But yes, they are today. So they got 4 Virginia bred stakes today.
Yeah, unfortunately, the weather going back to the start of the Saratoga meet here on the East Coast and the Northeast has been a little bit dicey, but that's why we play it outside, or that is one of the consequences of playing it outside. Frank, as always, appreciate the visit. Again, we tell people to go to theracingbiz.com. Great coverage of the Mid-Atlantic racing circuit and beyond, some contests, a lot of fun. I'm sure a lot of coverage yesterday of the Laurel card. Again, Frank, appreciate the visit.
Thanks, Frank.
Hey, guys, thanks so much for having me. Quick shout-out as I go out the door to Javier Contreras, late night powwow. West Virginia bred wins the Grade 3 Charlestown Oaks yesterday. First graded win for Contreras, and nice score for the home team there.
Very good, very good. Frank, appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Frank Vespi, theracingbiz.com. Let's go to a break, and when we come back, we'll shift our attention and talk a little bit about
a lot to talk about.
There is a lot to talk about.
So we'll get right to it.
Stay tuned. All right, I just looked at Churchill.
The backstretch workers are the heart and soul of what we do.
They're the backbone of the industry.
People on the racetrack are very giving people.
It's a very impressive community of people helping one another. We see it all the time.
Any help we need it. It's right there in their hands.
It makes so much easier in the family to have somebody like Nathan to help them.
Visit Rivers Casino and Resort, the Capital Region's only destination for live table game action and the hottest new slots paying out millions. And they're off. Horse betting is now at Rivers Casino and Resort with Capital off-track betting terminals and live tellers located just off the gaming floor at Van Slyck's. Get in on all the action at Rivers Casino and Resort.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit RTN.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
If you like to play the Late Pick 5, here's some great news. Capital OTB is now accepting internet wagering on NYRA's Late Pick 5 in Saratoga on all platforms and all digital devices. Simply log on to CapitalOTB.com, look for the icon, and there you go. If you're playing on one of your digital devices, just open your Capital OTB Bet icon, click on the menu button, and scroll down to find the Late Pick 5. Late Pick 5 wagering, now at Capital OTB.
Welcome back to Racing Across America on a Sunday morning. Sunday means reviews of stakes action, and there was a lot of great stakes action yesterday. We went through all of them at Laurel, a fun day there, and as I say, I think some of those horses are going to go out and make a little noise. It is unfortunate that the Salim and the Futurity are now turf sprints. It would be a little more indicative if they were, at a mile and a 16th or whatever, a mile on the turf. But I still think the horses coming out of those two races, and I think Switzerland in the sprint.
I was just going to say, as you were talking about it, there was a lot of notable names, especially horses that have gone through the NYRA circuit. Switzerland was a horse that took a long time to break the maiden, but really has kind of excelled since. Like you said, a little bit of a dud, 2 or 3 back, but other than that, the horse has been ultra. Fire Key as a long shot is a horse that's predominantly been running on the NYRA circuit, so you get 12-1. I mean, it's fantastic. So hopefully you made some money. Yeah,
and a fun day also with some nice stakes at Parks, and we'll hit on that. The highlights, obviously, the Cotillion and the Pennsylvania Derby, and we'll kind of start with the Pennsylvania Derby and work our way back. The horse that folks were going to focus on in the Pennsylvania Derby was clearly going to be McKenzie, who Bob Baffert thought was his best, or one of his best 3-year-olds, and given that he subsequently had Justify, that says a lot. But McKenzie hadn't been seen since the DQ from the win in the San Felipe back in March. Went to the sidelines with a ding, but the workout said this one probably was going to come back all right. I put that one on top. I had Hofberg in second, but McKenzie, the number 8, does get it done. Axelrod, the number 6, second. Trigger Warning, the number 9, third. Hofberg disappoints as the second choice at 5-2, running 4th. Core Beliefs, King Zachary, Bravazzo, Mr. Freeze, Instilled Regard fill out the remainder of the card, but McKenzie looked pretty good on the cover.
Oh, absolutely. It's one that we had talked about on the stakes preview. McKenzie, I understand, 2-1's a very fair price if you love the horse. But everybody had they were skeptical, off the long layoff, what they were going to see from the horse.
I was surprised by the 2-1. I thought Bob Baffert and being the buzz this horse had.
I agree.
2-1 seemed
and it
generous.
was one where he was actually bet down at the beginning and kind of floated on up because people said, I don't want to take 6-5, I don't want to take 7-5. And then he just kind of floated up 2-1, ended up being a fantastic price. Mike Smith, obviously, very good ride, sitting out in the 3-pass. You didn't want to sit in the rail. And obviously was able to kind of sit right off the speed around the far turn. You knew he was kind of loaded. There was a point, though, because of Axelrod's versatility, because we talked about it again on the show that we did a couple days ago, where Axelrod almost looked at about mid-stretch like he could actually get past McKenzie, and you thought maybe he was a little short going into it. But about the 8th pole, he kind of re-kicked in, and it was a nice performance, especially the way he finished up.
Axelrod at 10-1, and I say often you got to take an extra look at the locals. This guy wasn't a local, but he had won the local prep to Smarty Jones. So at the 10-1, he was one you might have tossed in.
And Trigger Warning is just a funny horse.
81-1.
81-1, and he did it a couple of races ago.
Yeah.
He was in the mix. I think finishing 3rd as an enormous price. So he was one where I just said if you wanted to kind of round out tries or supers, and he blew up that triple. Absolutely, it paid a really nice. As you're looking at it right now, $250 for 50 cents with the favorite on top. A little bit disappointing from Hofberg. Very disappointing for Instill Regard, a horse that was bet down from that 15-1 morning line, going first out for Chad. You kind of expected maybe he would kind of be in the thick of things. Bravazzo was a horse that you kind of showed the stretch run. If you watched the whole race, he was on the lead. He was pressing kind of a situation where he's not used to being on. But he was kind of vying for the lead going into the first turn. I think just the change of dynamics maybe, and the fact that he's been in all the Triple Crown races. It was his 10th start in 2018. Maybe they just kind of say, you know what, we'll kind of wrap up the 2018 campaign, start it up in 2019.
Mr. Freeze also disappointing to me because I thought, with the lightly raced career so far, the 4 starts and the big triple-digit win in the West Virginia Derby, it looked like Dale might have a horse on the come kind of, but finishes 8th in the field of 9. So we'll see where some of these horses in the second half of the field do as far as regrouping and moving forward. Really, the second half of the field going up to also Hofberg, who was up in the top half of the field, but the 4th from that one.
Yeah, he really had no excuses. Again, just the heads-up ride by Mike Smith. Mr. Freeze and Robbie Alvarado were going to get the ideal situation. Mike kind of angled out going into the first turn, kind of floated Mr. Freeze out, and then that's where he kind of won the race, was able to get the dream trip, and kind of went. The rest was all taken care of from there. So.
All right, and now we go to the
one
points.
of the big talking points
I would say
on
this
today.
Is the big. The other one,
biggest.
quirky.
Yeah, that
this
is.
One,
yeah. This is the biggest.
Cotillion Grade 1, $1 million up for grabs, and Monomoy Girl comes under the wire first, Midnight Bijou second, Monomoy Girl number 2, Midnight Bijou number 7. Wonder Gadot gets up late to number 4 to run third, Separation of Powers fourth. But a ding-dong battle here. You'll see Monomoy Girl kind of go in. That forces Mike Smith out. I think if Monomoy Girl hadn't come in and forced Mike out, this might have been different. But now Monomoy Girl comes out. I don't know whether we have the head on, but if you watch the head on, you realize Monomoy Girl comes out 5, 6, 7 paths perhaps, enough to change the forward momentum of Midnight Bijou. And looking at that, the pan shot, I was standing out in the parlor here, out in the race book, and everybody was like, oh, they're not going to do anything. But you watch this head on, and you see how much she comes out. In the end, I couldn't argue with what the steward said. You see Monomoy Girl come in here. Mike Smith then says, oh, I have to go outside. And now Florent Geroux is doing the right thing. He's still going right here.
Right.
But she comes out, as I say, 5, 6 pass, and I can't disagree. They took her down.
I can't disagree either. I know I was on Twitter, and there were a lot of disgruntled patrons who obviously had Monomoy Girl in this exact cold. But if you just take a look at it, I know people say, well, they didn't touch it all, and potentially you shouldn't have taken this horse down. For me, it was one of those situations, if you're doing percentages, probably 70-30. Somewhere in that range where you just thought it was probably going to happen in that situation.
Yeah, because I wouldn't have been outraged if they left it up. Because in a race like this, you don't like to see it. You also don't want to say to have that double standard, but it's hard not to.
This is a situation where you have to commend the stewards for not looking at it as $1 million Grade 1 race and saying Monomoy Girl, a star that has won 8 of 9, potentially 9 of 10 in this situation, and they just looked at it as a race and they said there was enough where you had to DQ the horse, and I like you said, the crossover
thing, which when there isn't context, stewards at some venues don't do anything, but it's changing the forward momentum of Midnight Bijou. She has to keep out of the way. She has to go. And as I say, that's 5, 6 paths this horse is getting moved, and she loses by the chart margin is a neck.
And I don't think the crossover at the top of the stretch right here when she Monomoy Girl kind of angles in, and then that's when Mike has to redirect Midnight Bijou. That's not really where the foul is. It's when you see it right now when he starts to drift. But Florent Geroux, like you said, is doing nothing wrong right there. At that point is just Monomoy Girl, and Brad Cox even said it afterwards. He said she kind of got a little lost on the lead. It really was just kind of wandering all over the place. Midnight Bijou, I know Steve Asmussen was high, on saying she was a horse that was really rounding into form. Was there enough for that head difference and all that just happened there? I think so.
Yeah, as I say, I can't disagree. It's unfortunate it happens in a race like this. You want to see that ding-dong duel we got and have it be clean. And boy, the ladies this year up at Saratoga, we had some controversy. And now in the Cotillion, on the Philly and Mayer side of things, so far the past couple of months. But to me, they made the right decision. As I said to you, I agree the 70-30. So if they'd taken it down, it wouldn't have, or excuse me, if they left it up, it wouldn't have been an outrage. But I will reiterate again, when she comes down and forces Mike Smith out, I think if Monomoy Girl hadn't made that move, I think if she had kept Midnight Bijou on the inside, I think she could have held her off.
Agreed. And again, it's just a situation where it's a change of dynamics in those type of situations. And for me, it's just one of those unfortunate situations where you have a superstar, and a lot of people, obviously, some people lost money on the situation, some people lost, and won, and vice versa. So it was just one of those, I think, right moves. And again, you have to commend the stewards in a big situation like that, knowing they're going to get a lot of heat and attention, to do the right thing.
Should also mention that Monomoy Girl did not get out and take the lead, and that may have affected things too. She was sitting third early one point and kind of had to make
She didn't break well. She kind of lugged in at the start. There were a bunch of horses that went for the lead, and she sat in the worst part of the track. To take a look at that performance, it was absolutely brilliant by Monomoy Girl because she was sitting a half length off of the pace on the rail. It's the worst spot to be in. Florent Geroux kind of told her to go a little bit to get a better position. She went, and then she just kind of get a little lost on the lead. But make no mistake, she is still very, very good at this point.
And I said After the Acorn, given that was 3 grade 1s in a row, I said she had the Eclipse in the box. And then there was about a month period where some horses came to the forefront, including Midnight Bijou and Wonder Gadot, a couple other fillies. And I said, you know what, this 3-year-old filly division may not be as settled. Well, then after the win in the Coaching Club American Oaks, I said, now it's impossible. I said yesterday on the show, I suppose if something crazy, fluky happened, I don't know whether this was crazy or fluky enough. I think if Midnight Bijou had won yesterday and Monomoy Girl had finished last, and then similar situation in the Breeders' Cup Distaff, maybe you could have made the argument. But on a DQ like this, off a performance from Monomoy Girl, I don't think anything can happen later in the year to switch her.
No, not at all. What are your thoughts on Wonder Gadot coming out of that race? Think it's just a sign of a little bit of a tired horse?
Yeah, I mean, it was a nice third place finish because I had her down. I had her third, but given what we saw coming around the turn, I thought separation of powers was pretty good. So that she got up and ran third, I thought was okay. I wouldn't argue if they wanted to keep plugging away and trying and picking up some checks. But I had Brian Nadeau on the Handicappers Report yesterday, and we were talking about Wonder Gadot. And again, earlier this summer, I thought she could be a player maybe for the Eclipse if she, did some extraordinary things. I applaud them for trying the Travers, but tossed in a clunker there. And really, you look at the wins up in Canada; those are restricted to Canadian breds. So they're nice. I'm not taking anything away, but they do have asterisks next to them. So she's had a nice year, but it hasn't lived up to maybe what we thought was possible given the 2-year-old season.
I agree. And again, she's just a horse that has raced so many times in 2018. But like you said, she's a horse that always shows up. Draw a line through that Travers, where again, she may have just been a little bit overmatched. They took their chance. But other than that, she's been in the top 3 in almost every one of her races, no matter what the grade is.
Another nice stake on the card yesterday, and a fun subdivision of 3-year-olds sprinting. A lot of these big days for 3-year-olds include one of these nice 3-year-old sprint stakes, and boy, they had some nice players in yesterday in the Gallant Bob. Number 10, Forenzi Fire, will win. Where She Told Me to Go will run second. 7 Trumpets from our friends at West Point runs third. But watch the number 9, who gets a little upset and tries to bite the jockey of Forenzi Fire. You will see her go over and, tries to get a little nip out of the jockey. That happens occasionally. It is termed savaging. That is the technical term for it as they go over. There's a famous picture. If you go on the internet, I'm sure, and type in horse racing and savage, there's a picture from 50 years ago or so where you really see a horse trying to take a chomp out of the competitor. Usually they aim for the horse. I think she was going for the jockey.
I think so too. She had the blinkers on, and I was in the Amsterdam branch yesterday, and a lot of people thought that there was going to be an inquiry the horse was going to get taken down. I said
she. It's he.
Yeah. Forenzi Fire. Yeah. But then I saw the jockey had his whip in the left hand, so I said, "There's no way that there was a whip infraction or anything like that." And again, I just got up and I said, "Oh my God, I can't believe that this actually just happened." And then you see it on the pan, and it's even more, or on the head-on, and it's even more of a situation where you say, "Wow, I've only seen that 2 other times in sports." The Mike Tyson boxing fight.
Yeah.
And my mom in a CYO basketball mom-son's game, she bit me in the arm when I went up for a layup. So this is the 3rd athletic event that I've ever seen a bite going into it. So I hope my mom's watching, because that was the first one. I went up for the layup, and my mom bit me, and I said, "What is going on?" I saw it yesterday. It was the 3rd time, so I saw it in this race.
That is a tough family relationship out on the basketball court. Right there goes, and again, Keith Jones made mention of it too, said it's something you rarely see. But as I say, you can pull up that picture from probably 40 or 50 years ago for a good look at that type of thing. And being an athletic guy myself and a little bit of a competitor, I've been in situations like that. I haven't done it, but there's some situations where you want to
Well, yeah, it was one of those fun games. You're 13 years old, and obviously moms aren't in tune to playing basketball, so the score is like 45-14 at that point. I go up for the layup. She's like, "You're not scoring on me. You're not embarrassing me. Not in front of all these people." So
yeah, very good.
Had flashbacks when I saw the race yesterday.
Very good. Good job, Mrs. Callahan. All right, let's just hit on some of the results here, because we're going to run out of time for handicapping. Otherwise, I guess you can show the stretch run of the Pennsylvania Derby champion, just because collected here, the number 7 horse.
Yeah, this was a little bit of a head scratcher.
2-5, and just you knew around the turn this was not going to be his day. Collected winds up running 4th in a field of 5 on the comeback for Bob Baffert. I think the game plan was to get an easy race for the comeback, and it looked like he was going to lay over this field, 4th in the field of 5. The one shocking thing besides the 4th place finish was I thought this would blow up the show prices. It did not. $5, $8, and $6.20. I thought we'd see double digits in the show pool.
Absolutely. It was 1-9 for predominantly the entire time going into the race. And like you said, Collected was so good last year. I was high on him. I had him in the Breeders' Cup Classic. He finished ultimately second that day to Gunrunner, and came back in the Pegasus earlier on this year. Didn't run well. They gave the horse some time off, and again, it just wasn't able to put in a good performance yesterday. We'll see what they do going forward. But Aztec Sense was 6 in a row going into it. 7-1's a fantastic price if you oppose Collected in that situation. So. Anybody who had Aztec Sense.
7-2.
7-2, yeah. So $9 horse.
Yeah,
and,
it
still was a very nice price.
Also on the card, the Alphabet Soup, that was Faster and Accurate over Byrne, James Byrne. Fast and Accurate went off as the 4-5 favorite. Over in New York, in the Noble Damsel 4-horse field, I liked Hawksmoor, but clearly at the top of the stretch it was all Uni. Hawksmoor kind of dueled and got up to be a second by a neck over Thundering Sky, but Uni looked pretty good in there. And hats off to Mike Callahan in the Kelso, the Grade 2 event in the stakes preview, touted pattern recognition, and can't argue with $13.20.
No, I was very happy to get that price. Again, it was one of them that we talked about on the stakes preview. We do that every week, Sully Crowdy and myself. Again, it was a weird race. We had a bunch of horses either stretching out from 7 or cutting back from 1 1/8. So there was no one that raced the last distance. I thought pattern recognition going second time at a graded stakes company could get the job done, and obviously proved me right. So it's nice to be right.
So some nice stakes action yesterday. And again, we get past Saratoga, and that summer season is so much fun. But you get a couple of weeks into the late summer, early fall, and you realize the racing not only is as good, it maybe gets better. Nice weekend this weekend at Belmont next weekend.
Jockey Gold Cup
Keeneland's right
weekend.
around the corner. Far Hills is going to be fun this year on the jumper side of things. I like the steeplechase, but they're going to have betting this year. I'm going to be interested to see how that works out on the jump side.
Horse that I just won at Far Hill was Zanjabil. Actually came back and won. I think Jack Kennedy was on, and that was a nice ride. That was a really nice ride. Ross Garrity, they're kind of the top 2 for that team there, and it was a really nice performance. So I followed as well. So
it's going to be a fun few weeks as we get the final preps in for the Breeders' Cup and whatnot, and we will hit on all of it as we continue week in and week out here on the Sunday edition of Racing Across America. But as always, we'll also do a little handicapping. I'm going to take a look at some Churchill action. You're going to look at Belmont.
Or Woodbine.
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 Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. And we'll do that right after we come back from this message. Stay tuned.
Pick, bet, and cheer on live racing from Woodbine and Mohawk Park. Thoroughbred and harness action. The wagers are just the beginning. Watch award-winning broadcasts covering both breeds, incredible battles contested over the most unique grass course in North America. Experience the full fields with over 130 thoroughbred and 160 live harness days. Get access to free handicapping material and join the ranks of Woodbine and Mohawk Park players from all over the globe. For more information, visit woodbine.com.
What if there was a way to become a better horse player, to have a better knowledge of the game, to be more successful? What if there were a way to take what you've learned, what you know, and make better decisions, better choices, to know how to connect the dots? In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool, but not the only tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. These too are important tools, and you'll find them all right here at Capital OTB. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
Looking for a fantastic meal? Stop by Malcolm's, a unique farm-to-table restaurant experience. Located at 617 Union Street in Schenectady, Malcolm's offers locally grown fresh foods, mouth-watering flavors, an enhanced drink menu, and terrific service. Malcolm's is a sure bet during Saratoga season. Make your reservation today.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. All right, let's jump in and maybe give you some ideas for Sunday afternoon. Mike's going to look at Woodbine. I'll take some shots at Churchill Downs on Sunday afternoon. Don't forget, a little later on, I'll be back in, now a couple hours, I guess, with OTB Live. These will be two of the tracks I'll look at as well. But, Mike, let's jump in. Race 3 at Woodbine. Maiden Specials going 6.5 furlongs. Kind of a fun race. Nice field of 10 schedule.
This is a really good race. I think there's a couple of horses that could go on to be stakes winners very, very soon. We're going to try to beat the favorite in here, the number 10. We went 2, 6, 1, and 10. The number 2 is Combative, going out for Mark Casse, John Oxley owned, and Patrick Husband's going to be aboard. Take a look at this. Sire-wise, I know you're huge into Violence as a win early sire, 20 for 87 with 2-year-old first-time starters. So unbelievable stat right there. Take a look at the Dam side. She was a stakes winner and was also stakes placed at 2 years old. Take a look at the workout pattern. This horse has been extremely good, including last time out on September 14th, went a quick 59-1 for 5 furlongs. I think this horse is ready to go. I'm hoping we get the 7-2 price, but we'll see today. Underneath, number 6, the Boss Factor, going out for Josie Carrolls, 20% so far up at Woodbine. Very nice. Take a look at the sire, the Factor. 13% with first-time starters, 2-year-olds. Worked 10.2 at the Ocala sales. Again, one that's been training really well. The Dam has produced 3 winning foals. Again, there's a lot of pedigree to like in the 2 and the 6. I think these 2 could potentially be very, very good early. And then the 1 in the 3rd spot. 6-1 on the morning line. You're going to get Mark Casse. Again, the stablemate to the 2 in here. Eureka De Silva is going to be aboard, who's one of the top jocks up there. Again, the Dam, 4 winning foals so far, 2 of them being at 2 years old. Worked 10 flat at the Ocala sale, so I think this horse is going to be speedy quite early. Draws the rail in this spot. Then my only real, and the fact that I had the horse in the 3rd spot, was the fact that Sire Will Take Charge is 1 for 18 with first-time starters. So maybe not this time, but look for this horse to improve as the career goes on. So I saw it 2, 6, 1, and 10 in the 3rd.
Yeah, and I pulled up your Violence stats. I think go back a little bit longer. I'm just going back to the beginning of this year, the Violence stats. 56 first-time starters so far this year. 14 wins, 11 seconds. So 25 in the exacta, 56.
It's unbelievable. And this horse is training like he wants to run first time out. So hopefully we get that price of 7-2. All right, you're going to take a look at Churchill. We'll take a look at the Churchill 3rd. It's a maiden claiming event, 45 to 50. They're going to go a mile and 16th on the dirt.
I have it 4, 1, 3, and 7. I stuck with dirt races because they had some weather at Churchill yesterday. So I didn't want to, jump in with any turf races that may be taken off. 4, 1, 3, and 7. The number 4 Royal Edition. Good second place finish last time up at Saratoga in a maiden 30 for Wayne Lucas. This is the kind you don't really like to jump on. 12 starts and hasn't gotten it done, but just seemed to maybe get the wake-up call at Saratoga in the last couple, and those also coincide with fairly recently moving into maiden claiming company after most of the early career being in maiden special. So we'll hope Royal Edition maybe is primed now to kind of break through in career start number 13. Second slot, Applewood. Goes maiden special weight to maiden claiming with some numbers that stack up pretty well with the rest of this field, so it seems logical. And grade in the 3rd spot. I thought the start last time over at Prairie Meadows was interesting. It's Ron Moquette. It's made special weight to maiden claiming, and again, off the race last time, I think could be a player in here as well. So race number 3 for me at Churchill Downs, 4, 1, 3, and 7. Moving on to race number 6 at Woodbine on Sunday afternoon. We're looking at some stakes action. It is the Bull Page, $100,000 for 2-year-old colts and geldings sired by a stallion standing in Ontario. They'll go 6 furlongs.
I'll try to upset the favorites in here with the number 2, 210, 6, and 7 is how I saw it. The number 2, Blessed 2, going out for Kevin Attard. 1 in the second career start against a restricted company. Came from 11 lengths off of it, and it was a really nice performance. The time's going to come back a little slow, but the track was playing slow that day. You go back to the debut. Did lose to the horse that I have in second, Stolen Identity, who's coming off a little bit of a freshening, but the pace looks to be very hot in this situation. I think Blessed 2 is going to benefit from that situation and may be able to close on a really collapsing type of situation that I see here in race number 6. Underneath, number 10 at 2-1 on the morning line. It's probably going to bet down to probably 6-5 off that career debut where the horse went wire to wire very impressively by 8 1/4. Is coming off a little bit of a freshening, but you take a look at the workout pattern and go back to that 2-back work July 21st. First of 64, 45-4 for 4 furlongs. Followed it up with a really nice one as well. Off a little bit of a freshening, slight concern in here, and also the fact that it does look to be a very swift pace. We'll see. Did get a nice post out of the 10 post. We'll see what happens in the situation. Then the 6 in the 3rd spot, Bourbon Strida. 3-1 on the morning line, another one that broke the maiden first time out at the maiden claiming 32 level. Is going to go first time out for new trainer and Robert Newman, who's 14% so far up at Woodbine. We'll see if this one is also going to be affected by a really quick pace in this spot. Looks like everybody wants to go to the lead, so we'll see if my top choice in here at 6-1 on the morning line, Blessed 2, can get the job done. I saw it 2, 10, 6, and 7.
How do you assume you pronounce the 5? It's already raced a few times. I'll have to pull up and see what Robert Geller actually said.
Krpan?
K-R-P-A-N?
Krpan? I don't know.
I'm going to have to, as I said, I'll pull up a replay.
We're missing an accent there, I think. That's an accent that I can't do.
There's clearly a vowel missing, actually. All right, so that's race 6 at Woodbine.
All right, you're going to take a look at Churchill race number 4. It's the maiden special weight, 6.5 on the dirt.
And I've got a couple of split divisions, I think, here at Churchill with these maiden specials. This and the 6th race I'll look at also. But in the 4th, I have it 8, 6, 9, and 2. Sun Studio on top. I'm going with some firsters, and the horses with experience may make me look silly because experience does count. But firsters with some breeding always intrigue me in these races. And Spitestown on top, Bending Strings underneath, Brad Cox trained, some okay workouts. I think this horse has the potential on the breeding to be a little bit of a runner. 2nd slot, Cuz Libby Knows by Creative Cause. Creative Cause, a pretty good sire of win early type runners. Larry Jones can certainly have them ready. And again, nice little string of workouts underneath. And then in the 3rd spot, Cape Mischief. Another sire that I like quite a bit with these types. Into Mischief on top. And again, a steady string of workouts. None of the workouts of any of these kind of jump off the page, but they're just steady enough that indicate these horses may be primed to pop in their career debuts and with a little bit of breeding to boot. So in the 4th at Churchill, 8, 6, 9, and 2. All right, we'll go to Woodbine and the 2nd stakes race on the afternoon for them, the Durham Cup Grade 3 event for $125,000. 9 furlongs, and 2 or 3 of the familiar faces on the stake scene up at Woodbine in here.
Yeah, absolutely. These are horses that just face each other time and time again. I'm going to go with a little bit of a price in here. I know 5-2 doesn't sound like a lot, but you have 8-5 and 2-1 on a couple horses that I think are beatable. Mel Mitch is just a grinder time and time again. 29 for 39 in the money, including all those being 1st and 2nd place performances. So last time did finish 2nd, beaten a length and a half, but was far back. And they went really, really slow. 28-1 to the 1st quarter, going a mile and 16th. That is beyond walking. So last time situation wasn't in the favor. 28-1. I've never seen that.
That's harness time.
53 and 3 to the half. I mean, for Melmich to even close into that situation was actually gaining on the leader that day, Kingsport, who went on to finish 6th in the Bold Venture. So the workout on September 16th, I think this horse is finally rounding in. Does have a little bit of second-itis in here, but I think he's going to get a nice beneficial trip in this situation, sit in the pocket, see if he's able to get the job done. Underneath the 3, are you kidding me? Horse that's going to be the favorite in here. You're going out for Roger Atfield. You're going to get Rafael Hernandez aboard. I think the price is going to be about 1-1 off those 3 and 4 back victories. Does look to be the pace setter in this situation. Again, short 5-horse field may be able to benefit this horse in the situation, but I'll try to beat him. And then the 5, Florida 1, a horse that won 2 and 3 back last time out. Did run an even 3rd behind Decorated Soldier. Runs against similar company situation. Does love it up here at Woodbine. 7 for 10 in the money, including 4 wins. So it's out 1-3-5 in the 9th.
I'm getting in touch with our friend Greg Peacock.
28-1.
Get a little insight on that.
28-1. Like you said, it's a harness time. If you're going,
it's a legit.
Yeah, that's legit.
Say that all the time. That is actually a harness time.
Yeah. So you're going to take a look at the Churchill 6th. It's a maiden special weight, 6.5 on the dirt.
I have 4, 6, 11, and 10. Moon Launch on top for me. Again, this is seems to be a split division from the race we saw a little bit. Actually, no, this isn't a split division. Excuse me, because the other one was older horses, and these are 2-year-olds. Yeah, so this isn't a split division. It's an entirely separate event, but that works out fine as well because similar type of scenario with a first-time starter with a little bit of breeding. Malibu Moon on top. They paid $150,000 back in May for this horse. Now, the trainer not known to have him ready, and I was a little concerned there, but you know what? I thought with the workouts, this horse may be primed to kind of go against the pattern of the trainer, not necessarily being known to have first-time starters, because it's Malibu Moon, and there are a couple of workouts here that says they may be aiming to show something in the career debut. So I'll go with Moon Launch on top. American Mandate in the second spot. Second-time starter for Steve Asmussen, coming off a pretty good second-place finish over at Ellis in the career debut. And then out to a fleet moment by Uncle Mo from Mark Cassie. Paid over $600,000 for this horse right up here at Saratoga at the auction last year. So I think that one could be a player. And All About Will in the fourth spot for me. Another high-priced per auction purchase. This one going for Steve Asmussen and Willis Horton, so this one could be a player also. So the sixth race at Churchill, kind of a fun race. I have it 4, 6, 11, and 10. All of which brings us to the end of Racing Across America. Beyond the end, we're again late. We're always late. I have the timing all wrong, obviously, but we'll work on that.
That's part of the rust. That's part of the, just
Exactly.
trying to get the rust off.
That's
so.
what I'm going with. It's all rust. We'll see if we can work it out as the week progresses. Mike, appreciate the visit. And before we go, I'll let you hit on some of the promos and events that are coming up.
Yeah, absolutely.
You mentioned
Amsterdam yesterday.
Amsterdam, my old stomping grounds. I said it
Fantastic
the
new branch.
last couple of days as we have promoed. I have gone through all the branches. I have to start there. I remember the old Market Street branch, probably before you were born. That was when it was still letters instead of numbers, and those old cardboard tickets. And that. So there was the Market Street branch. Then there was the really nice branch on Guy Park Avenue, which was an old Grand Union supermarket from when I was a kid. Had the parlor on one side, a restaurant on the other. That was a nice branch, and then moved into the mall, and that was a nice branch. That was all spanking new and new TVs, and that was a nice spot for a while too. Now a brand new branch is nice.
Oh, it's beautiful. I have to give a huge congrats and thank our facilities department and our communication department. It's unbelievable inside. It's really nice. It's located on East Main Street. Again, just travel around Route 5. You kind of go up a little bit. You take a left. East Main Street, there's a lot of parking right there because, again, there's a lot of businesses around, but it's a phenomenal branch. And, again, our facilities department did a tremendous job.
Yeah, I'm going to have to get out there and put that in my holster as an Amsterdam guy. Originally, I got to make a swing over and stop into the new branch. But what's coming up promo-wise?
Yeah, a busy week coming up. We do have the Bounty Bet back coming up on Friday. And again, this is why you should play in it. We had a situation 2 weeks ago. It was attached, $1,100 was attached to the pool up at Woodbine. Pick 4 comes back for 20 cents, $98. One guy hits it, picks up the $1,100. So that's why you should play in it. Because situations, it's different. You go to Belmont, because we attach it to Belmont, we attach it to Woodbine because they're a sponsor. Sometimes at Belmont, you have a huge amount of people playing in it. You get multiple winners. And then sometimes it shifts to Woodbine. And then you get less participation.
So he turns 98 into almost $1,200.
Could you imagine looking at your account, hitting the pick 4, hitting 98, and then seeing another amount in there? That's why you should play it because, and again, I've talked about it many, many times. You never know the situation. You don't know how many people you're playing against. All you're trying to do is hit the pick 4, and obviously whatever you hit, you win from the pool up at Woodbine. It was $98, but from the Capital OTB side, you hit for $1,100. So congratulations to that winner. So take advantage of it. We're going to restart it. $500 at Belmont this Friday, late pick 4, so take advantage of that. Also have the $100 our knockout challenge online, so take advantage of that as well. Every Churchill Downs day, 3% bonus, $200 or more. Multiples and exotics. Again, no whips are involved, but take advantage of that. You must be enrolled in Player Rewards. And then this weekend, we'll have fan appreciation up at the Halfway House. Again, we opened that up a couple months ago. They've been tremendous. Stephen Cross, we're going to be up there. Located in Elizabethtown, up in Essex County, so take advantage of that. We'll be there from 12 to 5. And then also I have a $100 Road to the Breeders' Cup win-a-bet contest that we started a couple weeks ago. Again, participate in that. For more information, go to capitalotb.com. And then last but not least, Football Sundays. I'm going to transition out here, start working on Football Sundays. And again, if you wear your jersey, you get in for free. Put your name on the scoreboard. Halftime prize is a $20 food credit, and then the ultimate prize is the final prize where you win the NFL jersey. So a lot to look forward to.
And if you root for the Jets like I do, we all knew that first week couldn't be true.
All right, against Detroit when they had the epic collapse. So, well, I'm a Giants fan, so I'm in the same boat. We're not, and then Buffalo's not doing well. So the whole New York, football team wise, leaves a lot to be desired. He's going to be very good. He's going to be very good.
But defense, and you had to stop that last drive the other night.
Yeah. I'm not a big Eli Manning fan, so I'd rather have Sam Darnold. If you want to trade, I'm cool with that. So.
We'll see how it works out for all the New York teams as the season progresses. We'll keep our fingers crossed. But hopefully your teams are doing well. Again, you can watch all the games and all the races.
And we have the Sunday NFL ticket. So, again, we lined it up. every game that you want to watch is here and available. And again, we have a restaurant inside as well, Legends Field, so take advantage of that. You know, I have a couple sodas, wings, etc. Watch the games, bet some horses. It's the ideal situation.
Absolutely. All right, Mike, again, appreciate the visit. Good luck this afternoon.
You as well. Good luck to you.
Good luck to all of you. And again, I'll be back in a couple hours with OTB Live for this Sunday afternoon. In the meantime, enjoy the racing. We'll see you again next time.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.